This video, we're going to look at the openpyxl library in Python. We're going to read an Excel, and I'm going to say clean it up. So I'm going to uh, take this table. I'm going to the ESPN. I'm finding the Eagles, Philadelphia Eagles roster there, and copying this table. And then I pasted that into Excel, and that got me this. So it's a weird Excel file. It has those images, it has names, but also hyperlinks, and these headers are also hyperlinks. So I want to sort of, I don't want to just I'm going to just throw the images away, but I don't want to throw the hyperlinks away. I want to keep the hyperlinks, and I also want basically the ID of the player uh, to maybe use in another way at a future time. So I want to do some parsing of this. I'm going to also use the regular expression library. So this is the file. I'm going to now close the file because I can't have Python read the file if I've got the file open. Okay. So what I just showed you was Eagles. I'm going to create a new file called Eagles Clean, but I will delete that for now, and just my program is going to make that. So I'm going to run my program. It has created this Eagles Clean. I just made it once again. I'm opening that up, and I've got the name of the player and the player number are separated. They were together. I've got the weight had like LBS on the end, was in pounds. I got rid of that. That hyperlink I have now in a new column, and then I've isolated that ID from the hyperlink and made that a new column. So that is my goal. Okay, and then there were some extra rows and columns and such that I need to get rid of. Okay, so here we go. So I'm using openpyxl, and I had to pip install that. And I've often used it as in conjunction with pandas, but I didn't really need that. And I'm using the regular expression library, and I'm using the operating system module because I want to read the file, and I always like to make sure I'm reading the file. Then I know where the file is, then I know where the Python is, and then I know where the file I'm reading is relative to that. Okay, so I'm loading up the workbook. And you can use pandas and sort of read Excel, and it sort of reads it into a different format. But the things I wanted to do were better done in openpyxl. So that's why this was here and then taken out, because there was some history to this program. Okay, so I'm opening it. I'm opening a workbook, and then I am opening a worksheet on the workbook. I had just pasted the stuff straight from the ESPN site into Excel, and so the default sheet was sheet one. So I didn't rename it, so it just had the name sheet one, and so now I have my sheet from my book. Okay, there are web sheets might have images on them, as we saw. And if I say ws._images is equal to an empty list, that is taking away the images. We're working in Excel, and Excel is sort of one based. So it's not like a list which is zero based, and my indices would start at zero. And we're working with Excel, and it's going over to Excel's nomenclature, which is one based. So I had a column in the original Excel, the way it came over. It's not currently running, so I can open this again. The way the original Excel came in is the team was broken up into offense and defense and special teams, and then injured reserve. I did include them, and then I think there were coaches or something like that. I cut them out. All right. Um, but you see, I'm interested in this data, and so I don't want this first column. Um, so I'm deleting first column. Now I want to figure out the rows I want to delete. And if it's, now I have to again show you something about this file. So after I take out that first column, I got rid of these pictures, I got rid of this column, then this first row will be empty. So I'm going to ask if something's empty and delete it. And then after I get rid of the word defense down here in row 28, that row will be empty and I'll delete it. But I also want to delete the row afterward because it's repeating my headers and I only want headers in the first row. So I want that deleted. Okay. So I'm going to make an array of rows to delete and I want it sort of going backwards. I want the indices that I'm going to delete to be like the high rows and working down. Okay, so I am looping over. I can find the maximum row with data in it. So that is, so that is WS max row. I'm going to go from that number, and that's inclusive. I'm going to go down to 0. That's exclusive when I'm making a range, and I'm going by -1. So I'm counting down from going from the highest row down to the lowest row by -1s. And so that's my row index. I'm going to have this variable is empty. I'm setting it to true. Then I will find out if it's false, but I'm going through the column index and I'm looping over for a row. I'm looping over the columns and I'm seeing if there is anything after I find out what's in the row and do any kind of stripping and what have you, finding out if it's empty or not. If it is empty, so I get through this loop over, I'm in the outer loop is the loop over rows. I have this little inner loop over columns. When I get out of the list of columns, then I know if the row was empty or not. And then I have this little if because I have to treat the first row differently than the other rows because I want those headers. And then if it's not row 1, then I want to delete. Well, I want to add to my list of rows to delete. I want to add the row index +1, the one after it with extra headers that I don't want, as well as the empty row itself. So I'm making that array, or I should say list, since I'm in Python, that sort of list of row IDs, row indices that I want to throw away. And now here I am throwing them away. Okay, so I've got rid of the first I got rid of the pictures, I got rid of the first column, I got rid of the empty rows, I got rid of the header duplicates. Okay, now I want to I'll eventually I want to get the hyperlink information, and then I'm going to turn the hyperlinks, get rid of them as being hyperlinks. But first, I want the information in the hyperlink. So I'm looping over the rows and columns, and I'm starting at the min row of 2. The first row, the headers turn out to be in that original Excel file. The headers are also hyperlinks, and I don't want that information. That's not interesting to me. So I'm looping over the rows, but I'm starting now at 2. It's indexed at 1. I've eliminated my first empty row. So now that first row, row 1, was the row of headers that are hyperlinks. I don't want to look at them. So I'm starting at row 2 here. So I'm iterating over my rows. Starting at 2, I'm iterating over my columns. I'm saying if it's a hyperlink. Now I could uh, specify like here is the column I know that has the hyperlinks. I have not done that. I've just sort of looped over all cells and grabbed the hyperlinks. So I could do this more efficiently and say I know where the hyperlinks are. But you can ask if something has a hyperlink. So we're getting cells in Excel and we're asking if that cell has a hyperlink. And then I'm grabbing the target, which is basically, I'll say the URL, and I'm adding it to a list of hyperlinks. And I'm also have another list of IDs, and I'm using the regular expression, and I'm doing like a substitution. So I am looking for uh, a regular expression that anything that is uh, not a number, I am going to replace anything that's not a number with nothing. And so the only thing I'll have left, if I get rid of everything that's not a number, what I will have left is the number, which is the ID. And then I'm going to add that ID. So I'm taking my link target. I'm going to look for everything in it that's not a number, get rid of it, and then I'm adding that to my ID list. So this should be a list of those numbers, which I'm calling the IDs. Okay. And I printed various things out to see them along the way. Now I'm going to make a new. This is me getting rid. Now then I have the information from the hyperlinks that I wanted the information from. I've gotten the information from. Now this is me going through the whole sheet again and again, going through all the rows and all the columns and just saying, I don't want hyperlinks. I think it's 61 that actually worked. I think originally I had 60 and it didn't work. I was told these two things work, but I think I only got 61 to work. Okay. But so that eliminates all of my hyperlinks. After I extracted the information I wanted from the hyperlinks, now I'm getting rid of the hyperlinks. Figuring out this is my maximum column. So I have data in all here. I'm going to add 1 to it, and I'm going to insert a new column and make it hyperlink, and I'm going to add another column after that, make an ID. So I'm making 2 new columns for hyperlinks and IDs sort of at the end. I could do an insert and in the middle. We'll see that later, but right now I'm just adding to the end. And now so I made the headers for those 2 new columns, and then I'm looping through my hyperlink list, but the ID list was a parallel list. I'm enumerating it so I have access to the index. That will help me with the IDs. And I'm going to the cell, I'm saying what index it has, what column it has. Now, when I loop over my list, it's 0 based. So I want to skip the first row because that's my headers, and 2, my list is 0 based, but in Excel things are 1 based. So that's why I'm adding 2 to the row. And so then I'm filling the cells with the values, which is the hyperlink, and the IDs with the index, which is the parallel array. And so I'm filling in that column. Okay. I am making a new column, and I'm putting it sort of between columns 1 and 2. So when I insert in Excel, it sort of inserts, if I insert a column, it inserts it before. So I'm in column B, or sorry, column 2 in Excel. Yeah, no, they are, the rows are numbered and the cells are letters. So B was a sensible thing to say. So I was in column 2, which is B, and I'm inserting something which is before it. So I'm making a new column, and so that was here, index 2. I made a new column, and then I gave it the header name player number, and um, and now I had the way this data came over to me. They were hyperlinks. I got rid of that. I kept the information, but I got rid of the hyperlink. But I still have this weird thing where the number immediately follows the name. And so again, I'm playing with regular expressions. And one time I'm getting rid of everything that is a number. So I'm left with the name, and I put that in the first column. And I'm getting everything that's not a number. I'm removing everything that's not a number, keeping the number, and that was the player number. So that went in the second column. What else is there? There were weights, and weights had these LBS. They had the unit of pounds on them, and I might want to do some kind of calculation or something. So I wanted to get rid of all those. So before I said I inserted some new columns on the end. And so I knew for my hyperlinks, I put those at the end. So I just figured out my biggest row. And I knew that splitting up here, I knew that was my first row. But this time I decided to find the row I wanted. So I got all of the headers. So I went to the first row and got, this is a list comprehension, and it gave me the value in all the first row. So this is the headers, and then I used that to find the position of WT, and then of course I added 1 because again Excel is 1 based and Python lists are 0 based. So in this way I found the column for the weight, and then I went through the cells in that column, and I read what was in the cell, and then I took what was in the cell content, and I removed everything that was not a number. So that got rid of any white space and the LBS, and just kept the actual weight, the number, and wrote that back into the cell. And then finally, I saved my cleaned out Excel file. So WB workbook save, and I made a new Excel file. And we saw that. So here was the cleaned up one. I separated the name from the number. I got rid of the hyperlinks. I got rid of that first column. I got rid of the second columns. Somebody here, had a long college name or something. Okay. But so I added the hyperlink info. I added the ID info. I added that column. I separated this column. I got rid of the LBS in weight, and so on. So cleaning up, getting some data file, just taking it as it came in from the website, weird hyperlink images, weird hyperlinks, and all that. Took all that data and then used Python to clean it up. That's it for this one. Thanks for your attention.